Judge Eliza Byrd sat tall in her chair, looking out at the strangest courtroom she had ever seen. After 30 years as a judge on Earth, nothing had prepared her for this. Beings from 17 different planets filled the room. Some had scales, others had tentacles, and a few glowed softly in the dim light. "Court is now in session," she said, tapping her gavel 3 times. The sound echoed through the massive chamber of Space Station Judicial Harmony. "We will hear case GC 8734, Territorial Claim of Sol System." She watched as Kim Jun stood up. He was Earth's best lawyer, known for winning impossible cases. His black suit looked plain next to the colorful robes and body coverings of the alien representatives. "Thank you, Your Honor," Kim said. "Earth stands ready to defend its home system." Across the room, a large reptilian being named Drac rose from his seat. His scales changed colors as he moved, flashing patterns of blue and green. "The Vexari Dominion calls witness Tark to the stand." Park Han leaned close to Kim's ear. "That's their star witness," he whispered. "Be careful. They say he has memories from his ancestors about our solar system." Judge Byrd studied Tark as he walked to the witness stand. He was tall and thin with a long neck. His eyes had vertical pupils that reminded her of a cat's. He moved with the confidence of someone used to getting his way. "Witness Tark," Byrd said, "do you swear to tell the truth before this Confederation court? You understand that lying carries serious penalties." Tark's translator device made a clicking sound. "Of course I understand," he said. "Unlike some species here, we Vexari respect interstellar law." Several humans in the room shifted uncomfortably. Byrd noticed the insult but chose to ignore it. "Very well. Counsel for the Vexari may begin questioning." Drac approached the witness. "Tark, please tell the court about the Vexari claim to the Sol system." Tark straightened his neck frills. "Our records show that Vexari ships visited the Sol system over 10,000 Earth years ago. We placed markers on the 3rd planet, claiming it for future development. By Confederation law, this gives us prior rights." Kim Jun wrote notes quickly. Next to him, Choi Su, the human team's language expert, frowned slightly. "And these markers," Drac continued, "where were they placed?" Tark pointed to a holographic map that appeared in the center of the room. "Here, here, and here," he said, indicating spots in Africa, Asia, and South America. Ancient human cultures built structures to honor our visits. Judge Byrd noticed several Confederation observers exchanging glances. This claim was bold, suggesting that human wonders like the pyramids were actually markers for alien claims. When it was the humans' turn, Kim Jun approached Tark calmly. "Witness Tark, you claim your people visited Earth thousands of years ago. Yet our historical records show no contact with any alien species until 50 years ago. How do you explain this?" Tark's neck frills expanded slightly. "Your primitive ancestors could not understand our advanced technology. They saw us as gods." "I see," Kim said. "And these visits, do you have any proof beyond your ancestral memories?" "The proof is in your own ancient texts," Tark said. "What you call myths about visitors from the sky." As questioning continued, Judge Byrd noticed something odd. Sometimes Tark would make clicking sounds that his translator device didn't convert into words. She had been briefed that this might happen. Some species could communicate on frequencies humans couldn't hear, or say things the translator was programmed to ignore. By the end of the day, tensions in the room were high. Kim Jun had challenged several of Tark's claims, pointing out that the Vexari had only shown interest in Earth after humans developed space travel. As Byrd prepared to end the session, Tark suddenly spoke without being called on. "Your Honor, humans are too young a species to understand galactic property laws. We Vexari have been exploring space when humans were still using stone tools." The comment caused an immediate stir. Judge Byrd brought her gavel down hard. "Witness Tark, in this courtroom all species are equal before the law. Your comments about human development are inappropriate and will not be tolerated. This court is adjourned until tomorrow." As she gathered her notes, Byrd caught the eyes of the Confederation observers. She knew they were watching not just the case, but how humans handled themselves in their first major interstellar legal battle. The stakes were much higher than just one solar system. The future of humanity and the galactic community hung in the balance. 3 days into the trial, the courtroom atmosphere had grown thick with tension. Judge Byrd noticed the Vexari delegation huddled together during each break, their scales shifting to dark patterns when humans walked past. Li Jinho approached the evidence display, his fingers moving quickly across the holographic controls. As Earth's top technical expert, he had spent nights analyzing the Vexari star charts. "Your Honor, I found something important," Li said, his voice steady despite his discovery. "The star charts submitted by the Vexari have been changed." The room fell silent. Even the floating translator devices seemed to pause in midair. "Explain," Judge Byrd said, leaning forward. Li enlarged a section of the glowing map. "These boundary markers show the Sol system inside Vexari space, but when I checked the base data code, I found traces of editing. The original survey shows Earth's system was never marked as Vexari territory." Tark's neck frills expanded fully, turning a bright red color. "This human doesn't understand our mapping technology. The markers appeared differently to primitive scanning systems." Judge Byrd tapped her gavel once. "Witness Tark, you will refrain from using the word primitive when referring to human technology." "I merely state facts," Tark replied. After his translator finished, he made a series of clicking sounds that weren't translated. Fui Su, sitting beside Kim Jun, narrowed her eyes. She wrote something on her tablet and passed it to Kim. Judge Byrd couldn't see the message, but she noticed Kim's expression harden. "Your Honor," Kim said, standing, "we request a break to examine all Vexari evidence more carefully. We believe there may be more discrepancies." After the break, the human team returned with more findings. Kang Min, their research lead, displayed images of ancient Earth structures side by side with Vexari marker designs. "As you can see," Kang explained, "these supposed Vexari markers don't match any known Vexari symbols from their historical records. They appear to be modern creations designed to look like human ancient structures." Several Confederation observers nodded. One blue-skinned being with 4 eyes made notes on a crystal tablet. Tark stood suddenly. "This is outrageous. Humans cannot possibly understand symbols that predate their civilization." "Sit down, witness," Judge Byrd ordered. "You'll have a chance to respond when questioned." Tark remained standing. "The Vexari Dominion has claimed 12 systems using these same markers. Would you question all our territorial rights?" The courtroom erupted in whispers. Other species representatives began consulting their own records. If the Vexari had falsified claims on Earth, what about their other territorial holdings? Kim Jum seized the moment. "Your Honor, we would like to question witness Tark about these other claimed systems." When questioning resumed, Tark became increasingly agitated. His translator sometimes lagged, creating awkward pauses filled with untranslated clicks and hisses. "Is it true," Kim asked, "that the Vexari only filed official claims to the Sol system after humans developed faster-than-light travel technology?" "The timing is irrelevant," Tark snapped. "Our claim predates your civilization. Yet you have no physical evidence beyond altered star charts and supposed similarities to human structures that your own historical records don't support." Before Tark could answer, Park Han stood up with another display. "Your Honor, we found something else. The Vexari ship logs they submitted show their first recorded visit to our system was just 50 years ago, not thousands of years as claimed." Tark's eyes narrowed to slits. "Those records are incomplete. Our ancient vessels used different logging systems." Judge Byrd studied the evidence carefully. "These discrepancies are concerning. Witness Tark, your testimony conflicts with your own people's records. Humans cannot grasp the complexity of our record-keeping," Tark said, his voice rising. Your species was barely walking upright when we first mapped the stars. The gavel came down hard. That's enough. One more insult to the human species, and I will hold you in contempt. The Confederation observers watched intently. Judge Byrd knew this case was becoming more than a simple territorial dispute. It was revealing something about the Vexari that made other species uncomfortable. During the late afternoon break, Judge Byrd overheard two alien representatives talking in the hallway. If they falsified claims on Earth, one said, what about Proxima 3 and the Rigel colonies? The other replied. When court resumed, the Vexari legal team seemed nervous. Drac kept glancing at Tark, who sat stiffly in his chair. The witness's scales had darkened to a deep purple, which Byrd had learned indicated extreme stress or anger in his species. As Kim Jun prepared to continue questioning, Judge Byrd noticed Tark touching something behind his head crest. She made a note to watch him more carefully. 30 years as a judge had taught her to recognize when a witness was about to break, and she feared Tark was reaching his limit. Day 7 of the trial began with a sense of unease. Judge Byrd noticed extra security officers positioned around the courtroom. The Confederation Council had sent 3 more observers overnight, bringing their total to 7. An unusual sign of high interest in the case. Kang Min stood before the court, his voice calm as he presented the human team's latest findings. These documents show Earth was never visited by any Vexari ships until 50 Earth years ago. We have compared star charts from 20 different species, and none show any Vexari claim to our system before that time. The courtroom filled with murmurs as various representatives checked the evidence on their own devices. Judge Byrd watched Tark closely. The witness sat rigidly in his seat, his scales darkening to an almost black color. Furthermore, Kang continued, we have found that many of the supposed ancient markers match designs created by a Vexari art group just 30 years ago. They were never historical symbols. The room erupted with shocked conversations. Judge Byrd tapped her gavel 3 times. Order in the court. Tark's neck frills expanded fully, vibrating with tension. He turned to look at Drac, who gave a small nod. Your Honor, Kim Jun said, given this evidence, we ask that the Vexari claim be dismissed immediately. Judge Byrd considered this. I will hear the Vexari response first. Counsel Drac, do you wish to question these findings? Drac stood slowly. Your Honor, we request time to examine these new claims. They challenge not just our position on Earth, but potentially other territorial holdings. Very well. The court will recess for 1 hour, Judge Byrd announced. When they returned, Tark seemed calmer. Too calm, Byrd thought. His eyes had a strange focus, and he kept touching the back of his head. As Kim began questioning again, Byrd noticed a faint blue glow coming from behind Tark's head crest. She remembered the security briefing about forbidden technology in the courtroom. Witness Tark, she called out sharply. What device are you using? Tark's eyes widened in surprise at being caught. The courtroom security system suddenly blared an alert. Unauthorized neural access detected. Deactivate that device immediately, Judge Byrd ordered. Instead of complying, Tark rose to his full height, towering over the human lawyers. This farce has gone on long enough. The security officers moved forward, but Tark was faster. He reached into his ceremonial sash and pressed something. A high-pitched noise filled the room, causing most beings to clutch their heads in pain. Several collapsed to the floor, including Kim Jun and most of the human team. Judge Byrd felt the sound pierce her ears, but her military-grade cochlear filters, implanted after an injury during her service with the International Space Force, protected her from the worst effects. She stayed conscious while others around her fell. Tark vaulted over the witness stand barrier, heading for the evidence table where the original star charts were stored. The Vexari Dominion will not be questioned by lesser species. Earth belongs to us by right of power, if not by law. Judge Byrd didn't hesitate. 30 years in the military before becoming a judge had prepared her for moments like this. She moved with surprising speed for her 64 years. jumping over her bench and positioning herself between Tark and the evidence. "In my courtroom, we follow the rules," she said, her voice steady. "Step back now." Tark laughed, the sound like stones scraping together. "A human female, barely half my size. Move aside, Earth Judge." When he tried to push past her, Byrd acted. She grabbed his arm, using his forward momentum against him, and executed a perfect throw she had learned in military combat training. Despite his size and strength advantage, Tark found himself flipped through the air, landing hard on his back. Before he could recover, Byrd pinned his arm in a joint lock that worked on most humanoid species. Tark howled in pain. "I said, in my courtroom, we follow the rules," she repeated, applying more pressure when he struggled. The sonic device stopped emitting its painful sound. Security officers who had been protected by their equipment rushed forward to take control of Tark. As they hauled him away, Tark shouted, "This changes nothing. The Dominion will not accept defeat from humans." Judge Byrd stood slowly, straightening her robes. She surveyed the courtroom where medical teams were helping those affected by the sonic attack. The Confederation observers were all conscious, protected by their own security measures, and they watched her with new interest. "Court is adjourned until tomorrow," Byrd announced, her voice carrying across the chamber. "And I will be filing charges of assault and attempted destruction of evidence against witness Tark." As she stepped down from the bench, one of the Confederation observers approached her. "Judge Byrd, that was unexpected. Many species talk about human adaptability, but seeing it in action is something else entirely." Byrd simply nodded. "Justice doesn't defend itself. Sometimes it needs people willing to stand up for it." The Confederation Council chamber was much larger than the courtroom, with seating for representatives from over 200 species. Judge Byrd sat at a small table to the side, feeling the weight of countless alien eyes upon her. Just 2 days had passed since she had physically subdued Tark. "The security recording will now be displayed," announced Unruly, the Confederation's Chief Justice. His voice was translated into dozens of languages simultaneously. The massive central screen flickered to life. The footage showed the courtroom from above. Everyone watched as Tark activated his sonic device, as beings fell to the floor in pain, and as Judge Byrd remained standing. The recording had no sound, making the scene look like a strange dance. Tark moving toward the evidence table, Byrd intercepting him, and then the surprising moment when the much smaller human flipped the large reptilian being onto his back and held him down. Murmurs filled the chamber. Several representatives from warrior species nodded in approval. "Silence," called Unruly. "Judge Byrd, would you explain your actions to the council?" Byrd stood, straightening her formal robes. "The witness was attempting to destroy evidence after his false testimony was exposed. I prevented this using the minimum force necessary." "Minimum force," growled a Vexari representative. "Our diplomat was injured." "Your diplomat was breaking multiple laws," Kim Jun countered, standing beside Judge Byrd. "The sonic weapon alone is a Class 3 violation of Confederation court protocols." The chamber erupted with voices again. Unruly raised his hand for quiet. "What the council finds most disturbing," he said, "is not Judge Byrd's actions, but what this incident reveals about Vexari territorial claims throughout Confederation space." A new display appeared, showing dozens of star systems. An emergency review has found similar discrepancies in 17 other Vexari claims. Systems that other species believed were fairly claimed by the Vexari may have been obtained through falsified historical records. The Vexari delegation shifted uncomfortably. Their leader, High Commander Krell, stood to speak. "These accusations are outrageous. The actions of one overzealous diplomat do not reflect our Dominion's policies." Parkhan stepped forward with a data crystal. "With respect, High Commander, we have recovered communications from Witness Tark's neural device. They showed direct orders from your Territorial Expansion Division to secure the human system by any means necessary." Krell's scales paled to a sickly yellow. The council chamber grew completely silent. "Is this true?" asked a representative from the Altarian Republic, a longtime Vexari ally. Krell didn't answer directly. The humans are twisting facts to serve their own expansion. Judge Byrd watched as species that had previously seemed indifferent to the case now leaned forward with interest. This was no longer about Earth's solar system. It was about trust in the foundational laws of the Confederation. Yoon Baek spoke again. Based on the evidence presented, this council finds the Vexari claim to the Sol system invalid and dismisses it completely. Furthermore, a full investigation into all Vexari territorial claims will begin immediately. The Vexari delegation erupted in protests, but they were drowned out by supportive calls from other species. Additionally, Yoon continued when order was restored. This council commends Judge Eliza Byrd for her decisive action in maintaining courtroom integrity. Her actions, while unusual, protected the rule of law that binds our Confederation together. After the formal proceedings ended, Judge Byrd found herself surrounded by representatives from various species. Many wanted to shake her hand or perform their own cultural gestures of respect. Honda, a reporter from United Earth News, pushed through the crowd. "Judge Byrd, how does it feel to become humanity's first galactic hero?" Byrd shook her head. "I'm not a hero. I was just doing my job." "But you physically subdued a Vexari diplomat twice your size. The footage has been viewed by billions across Confederation space." "Any judge would have done the same," she replied. A tall, blue-skinned being approached her. "Not true, Judge Byrd. Many would have fallen to the sonic attack. Others would have hesitated to physically engage a diplomatic witness." The being bowed slightly. "I am General Mako of the Teresian Defense Force. My people value action over words. You have earned our respect today." Similar comments came from other military and security representatives. Judge Byrd realized that her simple act of maintaining order had resonated across cultural boundaries in ways diplomatic talks never could. As she prepared to return to her quarters, Kim Jun stopped her. "Judge, the council wants to meet with you privately tomorrow. I think they have something important to discuss about humanity's place in the Confederation." Byrd nodded, feeling tired but satisfied. "Whatever happens next, at least we've established one thing clearly." "What's that?" Kim asked. "That humans expect justice to be based on facts, not power, and we're willing to fight for that principle." Kim smiled. "I think the galaxy just learned it the hard way." 1 year later, Judge Byrd stood at the window of her new office, looking out at the stars. The space station Justice Point rotated slowly, giving her a changing view of nearby ships and distant nebulae. Behind her, 20 students from 12 different species waited quietly. "The Byrd principle," she said, turning to face them, "is really just common sense." A young RAC student raised one of his 4 hands. His skin glowed softly in the dim light of the classroom. "But Judge Byrd, before your actions, physical intervention was forbidden in Confederation courts." Byrd smiled slightly. "Rules should protect justice, not prevent it. When Tark tried to destroy evidence, following the old rules would have meant letting him succeed." The classroom was part of the newly established Human Confederation Joint Legal Academy. After the Vexari incident, the Confederation Council had asked Earth to share its legal traditions with other species. Judge Byrd had been their first choice to lead the program. "Today we'll practice courtroom security scenarios," Byrd continued. "Not because I expect you all to throw witnesses to the floor, but because you need to recognize threats before they happen." As the students moved to the practice area, Byrd's communication device beeped. She checked the message and smiled. Namin, Earth's first Confederation security advisor, would be arriving later that day. After class, Byrd walked through the station's main plaza. Humans worked alongside aliens at various shops and offices. Just 1 year ago, humanity had been fighting for its right to exist independently in the galaxy. Now, Earth was a respected member of the Confederation, with humans serving in key positions throughout the government. "Judge Byrd, call the voice." She turned to see Kang Min approaching with an alien she didn't recognize. "This is Representative Lore from the Hylian cluster. He wanted to meet you." The tall, thin being bowed deeply. "It is an honor, Judge Byrd. Your actions have changed much in the Confederation." "I'm just one judge who did her job," Byrd replied.